The Trump administration is under fire today for something it just added to the census questionnaires. The question is this: are you a U.S. citizen? And now attorneys general across the country are trying to shut it down, claiming that the move means immigrants just won't participate in the U.S. Census. New York is planning to lead a multi-state lawsuit, and California's attorney general has already filed a separate suit.
We're here to convey a very simple message. If you're not counted, then you don't count. And in California, everyone should count.
Now, the White House is saying that there is nothing to see here.
This is a question that's been included in every census since 1965, with the exception of 2010 when it was removed. We've contained this question that's provided data that's necessary for the Department of Justice to protect voters and specifically to help us better comply with the Voting Rights Act, which is something that is important and a part of this process.
So let's go to Renee Marsh, because I want you to clear it up for me. You know, we heard Sarah Sanders say it's been on every census as questioned since 65, with the exception of the last, say, 8 years. But the reporting I've seen is that, you know, this went away in the 50s. Clear this up for us.
Right. So Brooke, as far as the census goes, you're right. It's the 1950s was the last time that this was asked. And the issue here is the justification that came right after that. You know, they are essentially saying, look, we have to do this in order for us to better enforce the Voting Rights Act. And opposition says just quite simply, flat out, that is baloney. There is heavy pushback on this controversial move. Even the former U.S. Attorney General, Eric Holder, sounding off the alarm, saying that, you know, asking this sort of citizenship question would negatively impact voting rights for decades. And ultimately, the fear is it would cause a population undercount because immigrants just wouldn't want to fill out the census. And simply, why do we care? Well, the census is used to determine congressional district boundaries, and also inaccurate population count could also mean that communities would not get the adequate amount of federal funding for things like healthcare, education, infrastructure. And that's why it was such a head scratcher today when White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders was asked point blank whether the move would affect the resource allocation for immigrant communities. And she flatly said no. There's no way that that can be true if the population count is not accurate. We should point out, Brooke, this all comes at the request of the Department of Justice. The Trump administration, again, saying that this is what they need to do in order to enforce the Voting Rights Act. But the argument is that essentially this data, they need it in order to do that. But opponents are saying, look, they can get this information somewhere else. There are other surveys, there's other bed of information and data that they can pull from. One Obama DOJ attorney told me that they were able to aggressively handle voting rights violation cases, and this was not on the census at that time under the Obama administration.
Renee Marsh with the fact check. Thank you so much. Also today, the White House trying to explain the